too small, I got big dreams.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Pun Fun, where we have fun with the puns. My name is Ryan, and we have a special guest for you. What a way to kick off 2022. We have Marco Rudy in the studios today. Hey Marco Rudy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? How are you guys?
We're doing great, and yeah, I'm sure the fans are doing awesome as well. Great honor to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You have such an extensive, line of work. So, being a comic book artist and then also being a cover artist, a painter as well. So some of your books, some of the pages, are they all paintings, or some of them are sketching and then rendered?
Well, it just depends. It just depends on which era it is. I would say for the past six odd years, since I moved to Canada, 6 to 8 years, it's been a progressive shift from pencils and inks to watercolors to essentially just painting with acrylics, which is what I've been doing for the past 6 years.
Awesome. And these things are mind-blowing. We're gonna post up as usual, the art, covers, any work that he's done. So he's worked with DC, he's worked on Final Crisis, Superboy, Swamp Thing as well. And then for Marvel, we have here the Marvel Knights Spider-Man. That's actually where I first got introduced to his kind of art. And you'll see what I'm talking about. It is very, it's definitely a game changer. It doesn't just anyways, we'll get more into the details, but you're going to see what I'm talking about. It really immersifies you. And especially with his own book that he has out, it's a whole experience on its own. It's not even anyways, we're rambling. He's done also Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, and also The Scarlet Witch. He's been on the latest stuff, like for example, Hawkeye, which is now on Disney Plus. So you definitely want to hit those up. As we usually get into the interview itself, we usually ask, is Marco Rudy your actual name, or is this an artist name that you use, like an alias?
It's interesting. It is my name. Okay. And it's funny because my full name is Marco Rudy Teixeira Retaji. Okay. I am originally from Mozambique. And awesome. I've always drew and whatnot, but it's so funny that in the way it sounds, I kept telling my mom, you gave me an artist name, I might as well just use it. So at home, everybody calls me Rudy, and in school or every other environment outside of home, everybody used to call me Marco. So I moved away from Mozambique, I lived in Brazil, and then I moved to Canada. Wow. And throughout all this time, I've always been just Marco Rudy, and it just stuck. So it's almost if I go fill form, it's I have to remember that I have I have my surname to add to it, because it's just it's Marco Rudy, and that's it. But yeah, that is my actual name.
That is awesome. So how many years would you say you've been drawing, or you've been creative or creating art?
Yeah, it's always been, it used to be one of those, you're a kid, you get a pencil, start drawing.
Right.
And it became for me an escape mechanism, a coping mechanism. And at the same time, it was it's my most present thing. Right. As much as I breathe, I've always drew. And it got the superhero stuff was a little bit later, because I grew up reading in Mozambique. We had a lot of access to the bande dessinée stuff, so I got Asterix and whatnot,
Tintin.
And Tintin. So I grew up reading that, and I remember reading when I was not allowed to, reading a science fiction book called Le Vagabond de l'Inde, and I really don't know if there's a translation for that for English, but that is a sci-fi book with just an older audience in mind. And I was fascinated by that.
Wow.
And so I would try to mimic it and whatnot. So I think around 8 or 9, a friend of mine got from Portugal. It was a combination of things, and Portugal is a very important thing here. Mozambique is a former Portuguese colony. Okay. And in Africa, close to South Africa. It's very close to South Africa.
Right.
Anyway, so at the same time that this friend of mine brought to school the first issue of the X Factor, the republication from Portugal, the Portuguese republication, but it was the first issue of X Factor, the first time the X5 appeared on X Factor.
Okay.
And
wow.
my cousin was also coming back from Portugal, and he was bringing in the one of the issues from Chris Claremont's and Frank Miller's Wolverine miniseries. Wow. The one where in the cover you just see like he's just in the darkness, his silhouette with the eyes and the claws out.
Right.
I had nightmares with that cover when I saw it the first time. No joke.
Wow.
Wow. It just blew my mind. Like the whole comics thing just blew my mind. Then I shifted completely from trying to draw aesthetics of like Donald Duck and whatnot to superhero stuff.
Wow.
And I was like, I have been drawing that ever since. I think I stopped for a bit when I moved to Brazil because I moved to study architecture there. Okay. And it's just the comic books were very expensive. The republications in Brazil, they were like 3-4 times more expensive. So I just didn't buy it. For like I think for a good long time I bought like the odd album, and that was that. And eventually I got back to it when I started making money with comics.
And what was it that got you to transition? So when did you know that was no longer a hobby, but this was something that you wanted to do as a career and go full force?
That's the thing. I love people telling me, "Oh yeah, you're living the dream," and I'm like, see, the thing is, it's not a dream that I ever had. Right. The reality is that growing up in Mozambique, you couldn't assume that could be a career.
Right.
Like to be an artist in Mozambique, or at least at the time, you make sculptures, you paint, you're a musician and whatnot.
Right. Other mediums.
Exactly. Other than that, like comic books, they were for a time actually. Comic books, they were a very important publication called Curica, where they would use republications of like in black and white some of the French albums. That's how I got to Corto Maltese and like the Hugo Pratt creation. And that people used to use that magazine. It was kind of like a fanzine thing. Okay. And there was some political statements in it as well. So comics were used in a different fashion, but it was either a lot of older people that knew about and would collect bande dessinée, or kids that would got like Donald Duck and the Brazilian equivalents to that, and that was the end of it. So you were not like, you couldn't, I joke around that you could aspire to be a NASA engineer or an astronaut with the potential that might happen. Whereas if you think you're going to be a comic book artist, it's just not going to happen. So when I was studying architecture in Brazil, some of the teachers that were actually nerds, they kept telling me, because I would sneak in characters from Marvel, like I would put Godzilla and whatnot. Right. So they would recognize that, and they would see that I was also always drawing everywhere. Like, hey man, did you ever consider working in comics? And even in Brazil, where I was in a country which people are recognized as comic book art creators, I was like, no, but these are for Brazilians. This is for other people, not for me, because like I just didn't see anybody. Like I couldn't think of an African comic book creator at the time. Like so there's none. So when it dawned on me, like I was invited to do a short story, and then after that I got to do like a mini series for Image Comics. Okay. And when I got paid, actually when the guy asked me to do it, and he said like Image Comics, and I'm like Image Comics, that's like Spawn, isn't it? Like Image Comics. Like I was throwing, like no joke, I was throwing myself against the wall. Like that's so bonkers.
That is insane. I mean,
even that, like
even in that time period where they were like in that Renaissance mode for Image.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because that work, I did that miniseries but it didn't end in the most positive of ways, and I thought I'm never gonna get a gig after this. Okay. And when I finally got there's a bunch of stuff that happened in between, but when I got my gig at DC, my first gig at DC was like I was in dire straits. I had been evicted, there's serious dire straits, and I was looking at my email on the library in college. Okay. And and like my agent just says, at the time, my agent, he's like, all right, I got your first gig at DC. It's Final Crisis. It's the current event, and you need to like hustle up and whatnot. This is how much you're gonna make. And like, I didn't even read the rest. I just read the sentence, I got your gig at DC Comics. It's a library. People are studying, and there's a maniac shouting, fuck.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, that is the dream. Yeah.
It's bizarre. So I worked at DC for 5 years. I was exclusive to DC for like 3. And when I got my gig as Spider-Man, I remember like it was one of those things, like I'm drawing Spider-Man, wow. And I remember like I started collecting Spider-Man like way back when. So I had some issues with Romita Senior.
Wow.
And one specific issue where I think Peter's got some of his friends that he takes, like their models that he takes pictures of.
Okay.
They were like bathing on the top. So he has to go meet them.
Right.
So he goes into the mirror and he smiles to the mirror to like, oh, I have to show that I'm happy. So he practices in the mirror. So when I got the gig, I was like, I always got that image of Peter like smiling in the mirror. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I would pinch myself. And it's one of those things. I never ever dreamed that I could work in this business. And here I am with even my own creation. Like I never thought that I could do it. It's still, I mean, I've been in this industry for a little more than 15 years now.
Wow.
And it's
there you go.
every now and then I'm not supposed to do this. I wasn't supposed to.
You're still humbled by the whole experience for sure.
Yeah. It's just the fact that my Kickstarter campaign was successful. I'm like
congrats, by the way. That book was we'll get into that book in a couple minutes, but I mean, it is by all means a different animal compared to what your typical comic book is. And I'll explain a bit more of what my experience was with the comic book, because at first going in, I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of Lord of the Rings, kind of this. And then when I finally opened up the pages and saw what was there, again, referencing things that I've read before, it's taken the best of and mashing it into this one book, which is amazing. Is there or was there ever any cultural or any messaging that you ever had behind the way you made things, or aesthetically, drew your characters or the environment?
I would say that it's a little bit inherent to the way that I was brought up, because if people have seen my Kickstarter actually mentioning this, that back in Mozambique we would have the power out, like the energy fluctuates quite a bit. So we would, especially when I was a kid, we would have lots and lots of power outages. Okay. And at that time, what would happen is that we would play games, we would tell stories by candlelight. And I was a storyteller, so I would be like just goofing off and telling stories by that. So one thing, and I would always want to captivate the audience, like trying to interact with them. So what happened was, over the years, working in a comic book industry and consuming lots and lots of comics, I started finding that I was gravitating towards creators that try to involve the reader in the way they tell the story. Like it's not just the story that is inside the panel. The panel structure maybe has something to tell you. Of course, Will Eisner was the reference for it, but there were other creators that were doing that. And then you would see that, for me at the time at least, when I started getting to it at the max potential, which is like the Electro Assassin, that Bill Sienkiewicz painted. And he not only painted, he collaged, he did a bunch of stuff in that book that it just blows your mind. I have not seen up until then and since, nothing that compares specifically to Electro Assassin. It's just a fantastic book. And but then that opened my eyes to other creators such as David Mack, which he was doing that with his own book series Kabuki. But my first exposure to his work was with Bendis Daredevil. I think there was it was even before them Bendis. It was like a Joe Quesada book, Guardian. I think it's the Guardian Devil or Guardian whatever. But there's something that like, and David Mack does that as well. He does a lot of collage. He does a lot of sculpture, then pictures the sculptures, then uses that for his own artwork in comic books. And I thought that was amazing.
Right.
And as I'm going through that, I started reading Promethea by Morrison and J.H. Williams. And I was like, okay, I've never seen anything like this. So those became that. At the end of the day, to answer your question, it's more like it's a combination of how my inherent nature of wanting to tell stories, and specifically because of how I grew up, and finding in these creators kind of the type of voice that I would like to use. So initially, I mean, if you look at the Spider-Man, the Marvel Knight Spider-Man, I was experimenting with everything to finally arrive at, okay, this is how I want to tell the story.
Absolutely.
Especially the first 2 issues are, it's just experimenting everything. Like, it's crazy.
Even with the what is it, the safety
the plane
pamphlets.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. The panels. Again, this was my first exposure, and I was just like, wait, is this part of the action? And I was like, oh wait, it is. And it was
exactly. And bear in mind that nothing that you see in the visuals of any of those issues was scripted. Nothing. All of it, I was like, all right, maybe we could do it this way, maybe we could try that thing, but I as I said, I think issue 2, by the end of issue 1, I was like, okay, this is how I tell the story. Okay. So all throughout the other ones, there's not a lot of, this is super, like, the visuals are already set in the way that I want to tell them.
Right.
I already found the voice that I want to, so I just tell it the way that I do. So there's the sequence in the plane. The plane is falling. I'm like, the plane is falling. Let me use some safety measures thing in the background, telling some of the stories. Spider-Man's fighting the Shocker. The Shocker is kind of here, referencing here. So what I was trying to do, and what I've tried to do for a very long time, is that there's a lot of information in the visuals. If you're looking at the story rather than just reading it, or rather than just going through what's in the panels, for me, or for the type of story that I tell, the type of story that around the people that I just mentioned, Sienkiewicz, Williams, Mack, and more, you are losing some of the story. But if you look at the imagery, you're like, oh, there's a lot more to it.
Yes. And that is exactly like, so I've read your Bucky Barnes and I've started to see it there, and that's where I really piqued my interest. And then having read the RDW, I remember reading it, and my brother was like passing by, and there's a page where I think you have a tree trunk and someone's against it, and as the branches separate the panels, you're seeing this movement of someone getting further away from the tree, but at the same time the last panel is actually the trunk and how further out they are, and you see a lake and you're like, but wait, like, how is this then you realize, like, there's a whole movement within the panels. It's not an explicit movement, but there's been travel, there's been someone's voyage from one point to another, which is amazing.
And there's even a specific to that, and this is not a spoiler, but this, for people that are interested in the book, opens up a kind of like what it is that I'm trying to do. Like, there's a sequence specific to the trunk thing, because I made that like everything is nothing is deliberate there. Everything is like really studied to a specific point.
Wow.
In any case, there's a sequence right after the opening sequence where the character is coming out of a kind of a fever dream.
Okay.
And the idea is, they're coming out of a fever dream, and which is very colorful, very bright, and
very vivid,
vivid colors, intense colors. And then they are coming out to reality, and the reality is not a happy one. Therefore, the color palette is very subdued, is very muted. It's almost gray. And they are now rooted in reality. Therefore, all of the panels are kind of branches or roots of that tree that is the base of the page
That is
where the
crazy.
character is sitting.
Right.
Yeah. So all of that is telling something.
That is crazy.
And I just gave you a glimpse because there's even more specific to that and to character, because I make in the branches, I make the image of a face. And if people are looking are like, oh, there's a face here. And I'm like, so all of that, as I said, there is a lot, there's a guy that reviewed the book that said everything is in the artwork. There's not a lot of story.
Right.
And I would say, I understand why he goes for it, because I really, there's two things that I try to do with this story, the whole story. It's a very, very slow paced thing. It's a very, very slow burn thing.
Right. And you have to take your time with it, because honestly, I was like, let me, read through it and see how it goes. But once you start, you get absorbed and you have to watch it from a close view, then take a step back. And you're like, wait, is this how it's meant to be seen? And you turn the page, you're like, I need to get back into it. And you get back involved or absorbed back into the book. And
you will find if you go for it like just a few times, like, oh, there is more here. So there is a lot of story that you may lose if you just think, oh, it's just the art, because there's one of the, I mentioned two things. It's like the way that I convey the panel story, the panel structure, to tell you a story, and the other thing is one thing that Hayao Miyazaki does a lot in the stories that he tells is that he puts a lot of time in characters doing nothing.
Okay.
There's a lot of windows to the world. It's just quiet moments in which you think nothing is happening, but you are showing what is the character's behavior or how the world is. So there's a lot of that there's some of it in this book, but as the story progresses, there's quite a lot of it in which you will say, you're just going to flip the page, like, well, nothing happened, the person just walked by. But if you look at it, you're like, oh, I see. So there's a lot of that. So that's why I say, before the story starts in the book, I say this story is meant to be read slowly.
Absolutely.
Like, take your time. If you do, you may find something very interesting for you. With the Winter Soldier, there was this guy. He was very dedicated. So he would review the books, but his review essentially would be like, okay, Marco made a puzzle for me to assemble here. Okay. So I'm gonna go and try to decode what he was trying to say with each layout and whatnot. Wow. And I was fascinated to read what he would write, because I was like 9 times out of 10 you'd get it spot on, and then you would get stuff that I didn't even put there. I'm like, yeah, but that's actually quite clever. I hadn't thought of that. That's brilliant. Oh yeah, wow. He was one of the few people that I think on issue 9 of the Winter Soldier, there's a scene where Daisy Johnson, the Quake,
Quake, it's Daisy,
yeah. So she's flying with this character that looks like a pterodactyl, and they basically the end of the scene is they do a loop-a-loop.
Yeah.
So what I did was I made in my mind this page doesn't end, this sequence never ends, because it's a spiral. So as the panels are going, eventually it leads to them doing the spiral at the center of the image. So if you keep the movement, it never ends. It's just they're doing it, and the guy was like, he got it spot on. I'm like, yeah, thank you. If there's one person that reads my books, I'm so happy. So yeah, that was
wow. Yeah, and I think I've been through many, because again, you go through it and you kind of say, okay, there's for example, my first read was, I know you said take your time with it, so I was like, okay, let me read through it, and I read what was there. Then I was like, wait, there's pages, for example, you see the colors changing from, let's say, yellow to, let's say, dark, let's say indigo. and you would see these 3 panels in a way that you would think, oh, this person is just going around a tree. But in reality, it's been his full day. It's been morning, noon, and night.
Yeah.
Doing his adventure while they're taking, for example, their, I think, livestock back to their homeland. And I was like, within that little section, you've understood exactly their journey, the weight that they're carrying on their shoulders. Their feet must be killing them, but you can see them slowly, taking on more, how do you say?
And they're slumping. They're starting slumping.
Yeah, they're trying to slump.
There's a
Exactly.
problem with their arm, and they're like, so yeah.
It's great, and so this is. I mean, we keep talking about it, but I might as well just show it. So this here is the RDW. So it's for the Rainy Day Women, right? Is that?
Yeah, it's Rainy Day Women, the title.
Perfect. And again, the art. If you've been familiar with his stuff before, you will notice. Again, the best of into one book, but you take it a different step, because even the acrylics, the way it's layered, like there's pages where you can see how thick you go into it, and
oh yeah. There's the other thing is
there's texture in the image. Yeah.
I very much like the texture of how it looks like and how it feels. It's funny because when I started painting with acrylics, this is it's a very, very silly thing. When I started painting with acrylics, I was like, I can make acrylics opaque enough that I can paint and make it look like a digital painting. I can do that. And then I'm like, what? Why would I want to? Why would I want to? There are digital artists that are very well comfortable in doing their digital art the way they do it. So I will do this other thing. So it became so much so that I like that the book evokes texture. And if you think about it, maybe the texture is telling you something. Maybe. Sometimes I go too much into my own head. But if you find something, maybe it's because I put it there on purpose.
Yeah, the scenes where the shadows are coming out, and you're just like, you can see the layers. At first was very thin around the fire, but as you progress, things get heavier, things get uncomfortable. You're feeling there's a vision, someone looking. There's something looking. You don't see them, but you, as your sixth sense, as a human being, you have this sixth sense that someone's there. You get this, evoked emotion through this book, which I thought it was great. And again, I've grown up with comic books, from ever since, and there was always panel. Okay, Spider-Man jumps off a bridge or off a building, and you go to the next one. Oh, he's a tiny being, but you go through it real quick, and it's a fun chapter, and on to the next. But this one, you really get to devour and really break and cut up into pieces every little detail. And there's just, like you said, the faces within the arc. Sometimes I would think I see a face just because I want to see a face, and I'm like, wait, is this now me playing? And it's great because in those moments, that's where our heroes are also having that duality. Do we leave her? Do we keep her? What's going on? So cool.
It is. It's also one thing that
very poetic.
It's like, and this is not like I'm not aggrandizing myself or anything, but clever storytellers create that kind of stuff. Create like, did you mean to say this, or did I just caught a glimpse of something that I should know? Is this it? Or so I like, obviously you can make a very effective, straightforward, or even dubious story with straightforward storytelling. I mean, you can, and there are many creators that are much better at that than I do. Like many.
Wow.
However, there are other ways. In my mind, I just said there are other ways to complicate things. So because at the end of the day, I am not making it easy for my story to be consumed. Right. But I am my goal at the end of the day is this: for you to achieve a point, for you to get to a point where you're like, oh, I get it. Right. If on your own, like you read the story, you're like, oh, if you're that type of person that likes that kind of interaction, yeah, sure. If you don't, and you think that this is a waste of your time, I totally understand. I really do. I really do, because I put stuff there that is the type of stuff that I would like,
Right.
the sense of achievement that I like. Oh, I see what Sienkiewicz was trying to do at whatever sequence he did with Electro Assassin, or Prometheus, a crazy ass book. I'm like, but I see what he was trying to do there. Like I love that. And if I can get people interested enough to at least try to look for stuff there and find something like, oh, okay, it was because it's the first chapter. It's not a big story. It's not a long book at all.
No, exactly.
But
right.
It's like
But it's very rich though. It's very decadent as
it's
a book.
like a good it's like a video game that you can replay and find something else in it.
Yeah, that is very true. And it's like, I know now, and this is why this came out at the right time, and I'll explain a bit why. Right now, for example, in this, cinematography, like for example, the MCU and all the Marvel stuff or DC, everyone now is breaking down every single panel, every single movement. What is the bigger meaning? What is the Easter egg? So Easter egg is a big word, for these past couple of years. And within this book, there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of there's but there's Easter eggs.
There's Easter eggs on the first page. It's from page 1 to the last one. It's like that.
Exactly.
It's the Easter hunt from page 1 till the end.
No, exactly. And it's again, this, like I said, came out exactly at the right time, because people will, I think, the whole to consume the comic book in one shot, you'll always have those. Now you have people that are engaged, are seeking a different level of entertainment, a different level of intellectually reading these books, or movies or whatever it is. So I mean, on it, this was a great, and it's not anyways, I'm not biased because we're on an interview here. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole book, and I'm very excited for your other chapters to come. Do you have any information, or do you know when that might be, or what a little tidbit or teaser maybe?
I can't show you a teaser. I mean, I'm gonna stand up now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You can't see quite clearly, but this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, big.
Those are all canvases.
It's 22 by 17 pads that I use. Like, this is my paper that I paint.
Wow.
And this is book. This is all book. Book 1 is collected in here. Like, I put it in portfolio already.
Okay.
But there's book 2 and book 3 in it, and it's all penciled. I am in the process of reviewing like scenes that I want to change, because it's all penciled, like it's written in pencil. There's stuff that I want to add to, the stuff that I want to change. Ideally, I would like to get to a point where I do a crowdfunding campaign for the book this year. I don't know that I'll get to it, to be honest.
Okay.
It depends on the success of the book. And it's been a slow burn, like it's a very, very slow beginning. So I'm hoping that it picks up and it gets more and more attention.
Right.
So I can get to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm ready to start to start the campaign because the thing is, to start the campaign, I have to paint a little bit of the book to get to a point where, all right, I have everything ready to have the campaign, and people have to wait for a year until it's done, which is what happened with this one. So,
which is very understandable, by the way, because because the level is the
thing that I do
alone is massive.
The thing that I do is, like, I painted this book a page a week for a year. So it would have been, I would have had it much earlier if I had not had serious issues in my family that happened just as the campaign was started. So I would say that the end of the year, because the campaign was in November, was October, November.
Right.
And October, November till December.
Ended in December, exactly.
Yeah. So no, the campaign ended in November, the 14th of November. But up until December, I had painted like 4 pages, mostly because a serious health issue happened, and it was unrelated to the pandemic, but a serious health issue happened that was stressful. So
I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah. So outside of that, I would have done it faster. But again, it takes a long time to assemble all that. As I said, I painted a page per week, but you can see that everything is painted to the minimum detail. So at the end of the day, if I can if all the stars align, I would like to do it earlier than October, to do a crowdfunding campaign for the book. I'm also like, it troubles me that Kickstarter is going into the blockchain cryptocurrency stuff, which I'm particularly not a fan of.
Okay.
And separating myself from Kickstarter diminishes my chances of success in a crowdfunding campaign. So I really have to see how that is gonna work.
Are they only going towards NFTs, or did they also included NFTs?
It's just that they're partaking into. It's not NFTs. It's the blockchain crypto. Sorry.
Sorry. Yes. In order to pay. Sorry. I thought you meant NFTs, but
no, not NFTs. I'm also not a fan of NFTs. Not at all. But that's neither here nor there. People choose to do. They do whatever they want to do. Anyway.
Right.
At the end of the day, that takes some serious influence on how to get the campaign started. So I'll see what happens, but as it is, it's mostly trying to promote the book, get the book out there, and get it to more and more people's hands.
For the first book, so right now it is currently out. So for those who were not able to get it via the Kickstarter, is there any other methods or platforms they can get them?
Yeah, I have an online store that I share. I think I'll link you to it.
Yeah, it'll be in our description, so you guys can definitely click at it.
It's at Gumroad, and I created a website that essentially, like, there's a website where you can see a little bit like just a little bit behind the scenes and get to know a little more who I am, and I'm also going to link you to that. But that also links to the Gumroad web store. Yeah. And that, I think that is the most effective way. I have other stores, but I think the Gumroad is the go-to.
Yeah, it's very popular right now, and it's very easy, I think, as a platform too. So yeah.
Exactly. So I've been using that. At the Gum store, you have two options. You have a physical option that is a little more expensive, and there's shipping costs to it. And there's a digital one where there is no shipping to it. You get the digital version and you get to it. Preferably, and this is not because it's more expensive, it's simply because I like to flip pages for my books.
Absolutely.
I recommend the physical edition.
Absolutely. And as a reader, so now saying on my perspective of how I was able to go through it, there is times where you would need to go into the details, go into, as much as though you want to take a step back, you do have to go forward. And I think just zooming into the PDF, it may be an experience, it may be able to convey again most of it, but again the feel of a book is always good. But also having that I feel it's more immersive, because now you physically have to actually bring everything closer, bring the action closer, bring the story to you. So I can definitely see how there's that distinction, and I would honestly go more on the physical side too. I think that's what actually drawn me to got it in the first place. Yeah.
Thank you. And as a small teaser for the book too, I can say that one of the things that I'm also doing is showing more of the world and how this specific setting works. And it's not a spoiler, because it's literally the first thing you see when you open the book. Right. Is that in this setting, characters there are mnemonic couriers, just like Johnny Mnemonic. Okay. So if you have seen Johnny Mnemonic, or you have read The Neuromancer, or you have read the short story that Gibson wrote about Johnny Mnemonic, there's a very clear reference to it, because there are mnemonic couriers in this. So if your first thought is that the story that I'm telling is dark fantasy and whatnot with weird visuals. There is quite a bit there is quite a bit of cyberpunk influence to it.
Yes,
as the story goes.
Exactly.
You won't see this in book one, but as the story goes, you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, there are mnemonic couriers in the setting.
Well, already with, like, for example, when I had first seen the cover, you get right away, like anything, you judge the book by its cover. You go through it and you kind of get this, Conan the Barbarian / the era of Lord of the Rings and very oriented towards that. However, reading it, the lingo, the language is very familiar, very...
Oh, yeah. There's no, like, it's funny because my editor was asking me, like, why are these people talking like current lingo? And I'm like, God, the thing that I want is to, this is your fantasy book and whatnot. Yeah, but outside of very specific high society people, everybody talks normal, everybody cusses, everybody talks in what you would see street lingo here. And this is actually influenced by one of the reasons why I wrote the book was actually I wanted to tell a Witcher story. I am a very big fan of the Witcher novels, like a huge fan of the Witcher novels and the way that Andrzej Sapkowski tells the story. I am not a fan of the Witcher Netflix show at all, because...
Have you played the games? Have you tried?
Oh yeah, I played the games.
Okay, good.
In fact, the first game was what got me to the novel.
No, exactly, and there's even like referencing. So you have a character that strongly but like he's just like a pile of rock or rubble. So like
he's a rock troll.
There you go. And so here you go. He's a rock troll. He does mention the thing, like from Fantastic Four.
The Fantastic Four. Yeah.
So you have this, like, obviously, and him when he talks, there's always that colored bubble, and you can see that. I don't know. Was this meant to be not a narration, but like your own voice?
So there is. I'm gonna try not to spoil it here, but
sorry,
in the speech bubbles,
yes,
there is an indication of race and an indication of creature.
Class. Okay.
Yeah, creature. So there are mixed races in this world.
Okay.
That once you get a feel of, okay, humans are this. Orcs are that. Okay. This character may be an F-orc, because their speech bubble is a combination of the treatment for humans and a treatment for orcs. So maybe there's a connection here, and maybe we should find out. I'm not gonna like I go more into the cyberpunk side of things with, for instance, the rock trolls.
Right.
Normally we assume that rock trolls are something. And that's not what they are in this specific setting. They're something a little more on the cyberpunk side of things, and a little more on the transhumanism.
Wow, that's
okay. But that is like way further down the story. On RDW Tale of Lost Fantasy Volume 1, you get your step in. This is just your step in the way the story is told, some of the themes, what the story is about, whatever is happening to this woman, and as the story progresses, we'll see you'll get all these things that I'm hyping. Whatever, you'll get to see them in a year. At least start to seeing more of them in a year.
Well, honestly, we're super excited. I can't wait for your next, volume to come out. Hopefully, like you said, if it's this year, I mean, kudos. If it isn't, we'll definitely, wait on for it, because this is definitely worth it. I mean, I think I've only read through it. Maybe this is my fourth time, but now having this insight that you've actually given me, I'm actually curious to see stuff that I have actually missed going through again. And I mean, that's what's, games that you can replay, movies that you can rewatch, books that you can actually go back in and find new things is always, a plus throughout, and I've always enjoyed that.
Like one thing you mentioned, like the Witcher games. One thing that the Witcher games have And my favorite genre of games is RPGs. And one of the things that RPGs have is side quests.
Right.
And you will see
many side quests.
Basically, that there are one or two side quests that I put in this story that you're like, oh, that like it's just the information that I'm adding to that makes for the story to be a little more complete. It's not incomplete. It's just that if you get to it, like, oh yeah, there's information that I'm putting here. There's a very specific scene towards the back end of the story that I literally just painted shapes. And as the story will progress, you're like, I see. As it is, you will just gonna see shapes. You're like, I'm not gonna say which one it is.
No, that's fine. And will the side stories have their own like side books, or would they?
Oh no. What I'm saying about the side quest is just the information that I add to the story.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like there's gonna be other diversions off it, but it's just
there is. While there's something that I have. Like for me, the more important thing at the end of the day is telling stories in the setting. So this is the story of this woman. If it gets to that I finally tell the story till the very end, I already have, and I set it up on I think like book 4. I set it up what then becomes the next story, which goes even deeper into cyberpunk, even deeper into transhumanism, in Elven. I mean, if you have played the Shadowrun games, there's that basically because Shadowrun combines cyberpunk and high fantasy. So you have orcs, elves, and dwarves. You got golems. You got dragons and whatnot. But it's also in a future where people have high tech and internet.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
But that's way further down. Let's
absorb this one first, right?
Exactly, to see if I ever get to it.
Hopefully, I'm hoping that there's enough. I mean, first of all, because you were able to get the first one going, I know there's interest for the second one, because just again, it's I don't know how to say it. In the beginning, all you see is this cover, and you're like, oh, okay, great. It's a comic book, or it's a different book. But when you actually go in, you start opening the pages and seeing, like, for example, this with the face and having the remorse and death in her eyes, like it just keeps building and building. And you're like, okay, wait, where are we going? What is going on? And again, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but it is an amazing read. And it's not even a read. It is something you need to experience. It's something that you want to experience. And if any of the stuff we've mentioned as, inspiration or homaged in, previously, even the Matrix, you can see how things are set up and juxtapose onto each other. You're going to love this book. You're going to enjoy the read from beginning to end. And I think if ever, Netflix or whatever tries to pick it up, I don't even know if it'd be able to do it justice, just because of how much depth is within, each panel.
I remember my girlfriend asking me if such an offer ever arrives, like, I'm not the most, I don't know, I can't say I'm not receptive, and then just somebody appears with the check and I'm like, hey, take it. But I would say that the best way to tell this story is with a graphic novel. But should there ever be any other way of telling it, it would be, it had to be like, if it's not an interactive way, like a game or whatever, it would be an animated way. I honestly don't think it's gonna go that way, just because I'm a very small fish into the ocean. I don't think that this would ever get to that.
I mean, sometimes the story goes along, and I mean, like you said, the path that you expected and where you are. I mean,
that's true. That is true.
I mean, we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best, and honestly wish you as much success as we can. Even at shows, there's always a lineup. There's always people around your booth, because we just mentioned the way the way the panels were kind of separated. the way that you have so much layers within each page or each art piece you make. What is your like thought process? How do you get started? Where do you start? What is the you know, yeah, how do you start layering or at least get that idea going in your mind to have such a complex, you know, idea?
It depends on what I want to say. If it's, well, obviously, if it's my script, I know what I want to say. But if I'm reading somebody else's script, in fact, with the Marvel and Spider-Man, when I got the script from Matt Kind, I sent him an email and I told him, all right, I tend to have a very particular approach to storytelling. If you bear with me, let me lay out the first sequence and I'll explain what I'm trying to do with it. If you're game, we can then go. He's like, all right. He was actually kind of like that trepidatious. He's like, I don't know. I don't want it to go too crazy. So I laid out the sequence and then I said, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'll do. And this is what I'm trying to do with the book. And he's like, okay, never mind, go. So,
Wow.
what I for my book, because it's the story that I am telling. So
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I have full control of what it is that I need. I go by, because my process of writing and drawing is a very visual one. So I start by, okay, so I already plotted the story. I already know book one, what it is that I want to do and kind of how it ends. Right. So I spread out, I divide scene by scene, and I make sequences of 4 to 6, always like 4 to 6 pages, because of rhythm as well. And I'm like, okay, what it is that I'm trying to do with a sequence of 4 and maybe 5, with a sequence of every sequence 4 and maybe 5. So I just mark it out. Okay, this is, all right, this is whatever, this is the point. Let's just say grief. All right, it's grief. So on grief, do I go with the different stages of grief? No, this person is on very specific one, and they're going from mental state A to D, or are they moving from location to location? And that's the second thing. And then, okay, then I have to start exploring locations. And then I look at a load, like a truckload of references. I look at images, I look at videos, I look at music, I look at video games, and I'm like, because I kind of already have a sense of what it is that I'm trying to do.
Right.
And I try to see what people that I find that are much better at it do, how they do it. And then I'm like, okay, I have now arrived at how it is that this scene is told. I then sketch a very, very, very small thumbnail, like this size, on the board, on the bleed of the page. In fact, I can show you this because I have that done. I kind of hinted at it with book 2. I can show you just a little bit.
There you go, guys. Fun exclusive. Behind the scenes.
There's nothing spoiling here.
Okay, cool.
All right. As you can see, this is a pencil page.
Okay, yeah.
As the character is dipping their arm in the water.
Oh, wow.
The water is rippling here. And everything is upside down. Maybe there's a reference. It's of course it's a reflection, but maybe there's a reference to the fact that everything is upside down. Maybe not. But as you can see, right here, I was trying to sketch how this thing is gonna look like.
Wow. And that is tiny. Yeah, that's crazy. It's like, it really is just like a few little scribbles on the corner. To see it become such a grandiose, it's crazy. And
after that, I write on it. Like, this is just a little scribble. But there are other pages that I have. I can even show you one that's finished. In fact, this is a great example. This is a scene that I'm changing. What I did was, I prepared, this is 10 pages that I'm going through. This is for book 2. Okay. And all of it, like on the board, on the bleed, there's all a bunch of scribbles in it.
Oh yeah.
This is all me. It's not even dialogue. This is all me.
Like thoughts and ideas and wow.
Why? So this scene is about why? Okay, if it's about this, it goes this way. Like I even wrote it. Why the setting? one of the potential ways that I was gonna display the scene was like focus on a cat. The cat is hunting, and then something is happening, and the cat is then reacting to somebody else. So and this of course has a reference to something. So all of it to say that my writing and drawing process is I sketch a little bit, I write a little bit, and then I go and pencil a full page.
Right.
And then because I already have all the beats of like panel by panel what it is that I want to say, right. I then start experimenting with the dialogue. And after I finish a sequence and I go through all the panels, all the dialogue on each sequence, I then write it, or like I type it on my script. And like I type it on my script to like, okay, this makes sense. And then this goes, because it's then I already set all the mood. I have already know what is the type of conversation. So I can, even if my editor tells me we need to change the dialogue, the mood is already set. Right. So I start painting. I then start painting. Wow. So I would say for as much as I say that I take a week to paint a page. Right. I take a week to paint a page in which, for the most part, I already got the mood, I already got the setting, I already kind of got I already decided it on advance, because this sequence is about this. That's the color approach that I'm gonna take. Right. Every now and then I change a little bit, but I already know that. So what I have to do is display my color references, sit down and paint. So I don't have to like come up with much new stuff. It's already there. I have to do it. The bulk of it I already do when I'm laying out the page or laying out a sequence and then writing it. Wow. It's a very visual process.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's to think so much goes into. I mean, for us, the reader, to pull and extract so much information. That's why this question was so important, because I was like, how do you yourself know what is it that you want to convey? What is it you want us to find? And then put that in a way that it's, a puzzle, it's intricate. At the same time, it's, the Da Vinci Code, but like gone, mad. So
yeah, it's a little too much.
Well, there's some pages where it's not as, some pages are kind of abstract in the sense that you can see the characters and you're like, oh, okay, I see character A, B, and C, but then you're like, wait, there's so much more depth into it, and you're like, okay, wait, I can go on and on of how to interpret everything. Yeah. But yeah, it's like going into a museum and standing there in front of a piece for a good, it could be 5, 10, 15 minutes, only because you're now going to see other stuff pop up as you're, soaking in as much as you can, and on multiple takes. And to finish it off, so we're going to wrap things up, is so what are Marco Rudy's word of wisdom? So for someone who's going in for the first time, someone who's been in it for a long time, what are your words of wisdom to the inspiring artists?
Do you want to hear cliche words like never give up, never surrender, stuff like that?
If that worked for you, by all means, yes.
Yeah, I am I am the for me at least, I am the personification of sometimes the stuff that you think you can't do, you can. Just put one foot in front of the other and do the work. You gotta do the work for stuff to happen, make your own luck. But to be honest, there is no secret to success. And there are a lot of creators that are much more talented than I am, that have had the opportunities, they succeeded, and there are others that have not. Right. I think if you want to make it into the comic book industry, or whatever entertainment industry, I don't know, specific to the comic book industry.
Yeah, exactly.
There, I say editors like punctuality, professionalism, right, and a little spark to yourself. So if you have 2 out of those, and you can manage to somehow, at least at the beginning, appear to have the third out of those three, you're on a good path. You're on a good path. Like, I was never a very fast artist. In fact, when I started at DC, I had to be fast with Final Crisis because we were on a deadline.
Wow.
But I was never a very fast, but I had good delivery. So if you can deliver your stuff on time, be professional. Don't be a prima donna, because there are hundreds of creators much better than you are.
Wow.
I think if you want
so stay grounded, stay rooted.
If you want like a Master Yoda kind of vibe sentence to as a word of wisdom, I'll put it this way.
Yeah, it fits well with the book. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there are you're not as good as you think you are, but you're not as bad as you're made to believe. So keep working at it.
Wow.
Something will happen. So
that's crazy. You've inspired me. That's amazing.
It's just that because
wow.
I have a lot of like imposter syndrome. I have a lot of I think that I'm not a very particularly good storyteller. Like I have my own problems,
right.
But it is very clear that I can tell a story and I can be good at it.
And you're doing it right. Yeah, exactly.
If I remember, I'm gonna I know we need to end, but I'm just gonna do a small.
No, go ahead.
Back when I was in college, I had this classmate that he was a jackass. He was an absolute jackass, and he was not the most attractive guy.
Okay.
But he had a very attractive girlfriend.
Okay.
And so my setting was, if that jackass can have an attractive partner,
right,
then anybody can. So work towards your goals. Work towards your goals. Be professional.
Right.
If whatever creator that you think is not doing it, and you think you can do better, it's actually not a very good way to approach things. But you're at the end of the day, this ain't no competition.
Exactly. Yeah, it's your own bread, it's your own butter. Yeah.
Your competition has to be with yourself.
Yeah.
Creed, dude, what's his face? So Stallone says to Michael B. Jordan's character, look in the mirror. You see that guy? Yeah, that's the guy you gotta beat. So every day, practice to be better, practice to tell your story better. Something might land. And put yourself out there. I mean, we have the internet. Put yourself out there. Something is bound to happen.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people that, again, will have either the self-doubt or their entourage, he doesn't believe in them. But yeah, the platform is out. I mean, you have nothing to lose but to put in that work, put in that time. I mean, great words of wisdom, man. Congrats.
And the sentence that I said, actually, you can even reverse it and still be applicable. You're not as bad as you think you are, and you're not as good as you made to believe. So just tone it down and have fun. This is a fun work that we have. Try to have fun.
Awesome, man. Again, much success to you as always. I mean, we'll definitely be, one of your fans for your next crowdfunding, regardless where it's going to be. We hope to one day have you back on, maybe just to promote it real quick. I mean, this was a pleasure. I mean, it was just a fun, actually getting some of the stuff that we were going through kind of explained even more. I can't wait to go back again and rediscover stuff that I may have not seen the first time. Like just the bubble fact, that alone got me intrigued to actually go through the thing again. So kudos to you. And if you guys want to check out any of his previous work, from DC and from Marvel, we've noted them before, but this here, like I said, is the gemstone. This is his own work. It's all of his creativity, his madness, is his layers all amalgamated into one piece. You'll definitely want to try this first. And I mean, thanks again, man. I mean, this was a bunch of fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
So As usual, if you guys enjoyed the episode, we ask that you guys like it. Of course, if you're new to the show, we'd ask that you subscribe. This way we have, you get the first dibs when we have new and other artists on our show. And of course, share it. I mean, Marco Rudy is, obviously I was starstruck. I'm still starstruck. I got good goosebumps, just sending us off. I know you can't see it. And I know you're humbled, but yes, this was a big dream come true. So definitely, guys, we're going to have, just as crazy as this artist is on our show. And we hope, a great 2022 to you guys, a great 2022 to you.
And you too, to all of you.
Yep, thanks. And you guys take it easy. Peace.